Great dancer. Too bad her boobs aren't in the middle of her face instead of that nose. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I would say it's a true welcome back, but you can see us now. And that's something we did not have before.
Or mics.
Or proper mics. Thank you. And let us say welcome to 2025's version of the Broccoli Horror Picture Show. And
Woo!
The podcast featuring, introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Emma.
Broccoli Head.
I guess I'll follow suit on that. Hi, I'm Nick.
All right, and I'm Kristen, and what we're gathered here today to do is to talk about movies, maybe talk about food. I don't know how that's going to go for this specific episode, but
It's going to go great.
it's going to go great.
Better than ever.
What we're essentially doing is yapping about movies for an hour, and we're so glad to have you join us on that journey.
Yes, and if this is your first time listening, we are old coworkers turned friends. We all discovered that we loved movies very quickly and blossomed from there.
Blossomed is a great term.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, should we jump right in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nick, are you ready?
I'm setting the tone by being quiet early in this podcast.
That's what's
I was
scaring
wondering.
me. I feel like I have to talk more because you're so quiet right now.
I have been nervously anticipating how much you might have hated this movie.
Yeah.
I'd like to intro how Emma thinks I'm going to feel about this movie by me asking for, right before I watched, I asked for one word. How do you think I'll feel about it? Or do you think I'll like this movie?
You said,
And
do you
all
think I
Emma
will
said
hate
was-
this movie?
Yeah. And all your response is the same either way. Just perhaps.
Speaking of this movie, what did we watch? We watched The Substance. The Substance. Gory body horror sensation of the last couple months.
Funny,
Slash-
sexy, cute, hot, hilarious, gross,
outlandish, all of the above.
outlandish.
Let me give a little background on the movie. It follows a newly 50-year-old actress slash movie star named Elisabeth Sparkle, who is kind of dealing with self-image issues and getting older in Hollywood and how she's perceived by the public. And that's kind of the jumping off point. Everything from there goes so crazy, balls to the wall.
Cute, scary, gory, funny, everything. Never been done before.
Show stopping, never been done before.
Throw up on it, eat it, shit it out. Which they did in this movie many times. I was saying this to a coworker today that what was the Foley budget for this movie? Because the amount of squelching that they produced was insane. Gorgeous.
I had to stop watching, turn my volume lower and keep going, and then turn it back up because I couldn't hear words. So I was going back and forth with the volume controls because the sound design they did exactly what they wanted to do, and it was crazy.
Sadie was falling asleep at one point during this movie, just like not really watching, and it woke her up how loud the makeout scene was at one point in this movie. Just the sound of them making out, like she was like, "What?
What is that?" Going into it, what were your impressions? Based on what you've heard from other people, what were you going into this thinking?
Nick, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. So I did not watch this movie until last night. It's kind of outside of my scope. I was aware of it, just kind of movies like this. I just kind of usually know what they are and then avoid them. I did have a lot of like positive feedback from everyone I talked to about movies for the most part. And everyone said how strong it was, like technically, which I could tell they were trying to specifically sell it to me. And that was the only selling point it had for me going in. But yeah, that was all I really heard about it. It was very over the top and funny and gory but it was also, very well made, and a lot of attention went into. We're 6 minutes in, and I almost just used the word mise en scène, but a lot of attention went into shot composition, we'll say.
Hey, you're allowed.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It is a movie podcast, okay? You can say it as many times as you want.
Exactly.
This is a safe space for it.
Emma?
I love horror movies, as you probably know. So does Kristen. So I kind of knew about this movie sort of as soon as it was coming out and was very much looking forward to it. I love Margaret Qualley also, so that was a big plus for me. I didn't have too many expectations because I was sort of avoiding trailers for this. Not that the trailer I don't think there's a way a trailer could give away what happens in this movie. I don't think that's possible. But yeah, I was just excited from the beginning. And then I actually saw this movie on my honeymoon in November, very romantic part of our trip to Ireland.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we saw it in Galway. We had like a free afternoon, and there was a movie theater nearby, and we went and saw it. And it was like near a college, so it was just us and a bunch of college students seeing this movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat as Emma. I did not see it in Galway, obviously, but I also did not watch it until last night because I was like, I have to be in a mood to watch it. I know I'm gonna have to be in the mood to watch it, or have to watch it. But I didn't. Going into it, I didn't expect it to be as, I want to say, jarring as it was, even though, like, yes, I expected it to be surprising and disgusting, but I think it was a lot more involved in, like you were saying, Nick, the cinematography, which it changed mood with the characters, and I thought that was a really nice detail. Not that it's the only little thing that they did, but yeah, that really took me by surprise. Yeah, I think it's about time we talk about the hotness of the characters.
Ooh, early hotness of the characters.
There's only so many we can pick from. I don't think it's a long conversation because we're going to keep hitting on it.
Yeah. It's kind of the point of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard not to be Margaret Qualley in this, I think, Sue. But I also think it's also pretty clear it's the guy she's sleeping with when.
It's not what I thought you were going to say.
When the shit goes down. When the shit goes down, and Demi Moore is like in the bathroom and he's just banging on the door.
Yeah. That man had the most impressive set of cheeks I've seen in a long time.
Guys, I didn't even see this man. I couldn't pick him out of a crowd.
I'm not talking about his face, so you don't have to.
Wait, I really thought you were.
No, it's like Broad City when Alana is talking about Abby's butt. She's like, I could pick that out. Better than I could pick out your face.
Oh, okay. Well, those cheeks I do remember. No face recognition, though.
That's how he gets into his iPhone.
Your pick for the hottest too, Kristen?
I guess of the male variety. I guess I'm also Team Margaret Qualley here. Yeah.
You guys are not giving love to Demi Moore. Culturally, what a moment for her. She had a comeback in a big way. I don't know. I was struck. I know this movie, she progressively looks worse. But in the beginning, in the opening scene, I couldn't believe how amazing she looks. The work she's getting done, pretty damn tasteful.
Yeah.
And I was blown away with how good I thought she looked in this movie. So maybe that is why I was leaning Demi Moore. But I think it's a tie between her and Margaret. Yeah. And they're one. So that's my answer. True.
I was going to make that argument as well. But
you can't separate them. But then you also have to include everything that it becomes.
Right. Not that it's a part of the who's hottest conversation. There's one point in Elisabeth's transformation, let's call it. I think she looks like a hairless Glenn Close. And that sounds so mean. But if you know what I'm talking about, it's kind of true.
It looks familiar, and I think you've nailed what was familiar about it.
And I don't mean to nail it because that's so unfortunate, but that's Glenn Close. That's bald Glenn Close.
Say sorry to Glenn Close right now.
I'm sorry. I loved you in 101 Dalmatians. My queen.
Yeah, you definitely just pissed a lot of people off.
I know, and that's why
Glenn Close stands out there.
Literally in my notes.
I don't give a shit about Glenn Close.
No, I do. That's why I said in my notes, I wrote, I'm going to sound like the biggest bitch on the planet, but she looked like Glenn Close. Why she look like that?
You could have saved money on prosthetics and just got Glenn Close.
That's so mean.
That's so true.
Yes. I'm going to start fresh with the plot points here, our introductions, and we'll go through the
leading this chat.
What?
I said you're going to be leading this chat this week.
Who's driving this bus? It's me. All right. So, like we said, this film follows Elisabeth Sparkle and then Sue. We'll get to Sue. So Elisabeth Sparkle is a 50-year-old former Hollywood star fired from her long-running aerobics TV show by her producer Harvey due to her age. That's the vehicle that sets this whole thing in motion. And I want to know your guys' thoughts on how this is done / what are your thoughts on Dennis Quaid as Harvey to begin with?
I didn't write down that many notes. One I wrote is that Dennis Quaid didn't even have to act.
Yeah.
I think he truly is the most like irredeemable villain I've seen in something in a while. Like I feel like everything now has like pretty much, I think The Dark Knight really like set everything into a pattern of like the Joker has like good ideas. So every villain based around that since then has like kind of a relatable side. And I feel like they were like, fuck that. Like they were like, we're just going to make a villain that's just like disgusting and evil and bad. And it's not even going to be like, he's the problem, but it's going to be very clear that this is just not a good character.
Yeah. Again, right off the bat, like grossing us out with the just going to town on some prawn, I guess, at a restaurant. But
it really struck me in the beginning of one of the few movies I've seen, at least recently, that it's so clear immediately that we're in a different universe. This is not where we live. It's so jarring, kind of what you were saying earlier. It's so jarring how different it is than how we exist. Like the only other movie I can think of recently that gave me the same feeling was Bottoms. If anyone saw that film, like I thought that movie seemed so out of the realm of like how we exist, and he just really hits you in the face with that right off the bat.
I have a note about that too. I thought they did a good job using like all different technology and modern and past things to really just like throw off the timeline. So this movie doesn't age poorly where it's like an iPhone 4 the whole movie and you're like, well, I know exactly when that is. And I think they did a similar thing in Sorry to Bother You, had this a little bit. They cloned Tyrone, did the same thing, and then Severance does it. Where Severance has, a very old school feel with the computers and stuff when you're down there, but then when they're in the outside world, you can't really tell what exactly the timeline is. The cars are kind of from all different times. So I think that's a technique that people are using more and more. That's definitely good for the aging of movies, because I feel like we got so caught up into things having the most modern tech, you didn't feel out of place, that they kind of solved that problem with like diversifying everything.
I think Elisabeth's apartment / condo is like a great example of that, because the architecture and the technology in that space alone is so different from current and I think past things, because at first it was like, this is kind of like a 70s bachelor pad. But then as we kept going, I was like, okay, but why is there a prison bathroom in here?
Prison bathroom. Yeah.
Why is there just like, why do we even have a wall to get to the kitchen if you're going to take giant holes out of it to see through, to see your TV, I guess. And that's just not something I'm used to seeing in like architecture of the past, 30 years. So I thought that was another interesting, because that's where a lot of the story takes place, is between the TV studio and her apartment, condo, whatever. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Totally. It's so disorienting, yet like visually so clear.
Yeah, there's certain movies and shows that I feel like use their setting as another character. And I think like a lot of times it's a city that like Bad Boys uses Miami, and like certain shows like Always Sunny will use Philly as a character. Like it's like omnipresent. You can feel it in every scene. And I think in this movie, like the setting, especially what they did with lighting in this movie, and that just like you said, I wrote down it was like my dorm floor bathroom in college. Like we had like a shared dorm bathroom on our floor, and like that's literally what it felt like, because our dorm building got knocked down the second we moved out. It was like an old 60s, 50s dorm building. So I was like, this literally feels like every space that they're in feels very intentional and very much like it's like weighing on the scene. It's not just like they're in a room at any point.
Yeah. Moving forward, our introduction to the substance itself. Elisabeth gets approached after getting hit by a car, crazy, by one of the nurses that gives her this flash drive, and it's wrapped in a note that says, "It changed my life," and it says the substance on it. And it's presented as a black market drug that promises you that you're going to be the best version of yourself, or there's going to be a new, younger, hotter version of yourself once you take it. And so Elisabeth obviously does just that, because she's just reached 50 and Harvey has basically told her that she has the worth of a bag of dust. So
almost using those exact words, like borderline saying those exact words.
Pretty much.
I just don't know that I've heard bag of dust before.
Wait, I mean, am I wrong?
No.
I mean, again, it's all very intentional, but when he's with her at the restaurant and just goes, once you hit 50, it just stops. And she has to ask him what, and he goes, and he just doesn't answer. And he ends up just like walking away. The finality of that, like kind of being like, oh, your life kind of stops once you hit 50, and she's hit 50. So it gives her obviously that motivation and the desperation to take the substance, even though it is literally the shadiest process in the entire world.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job to this point too, of like they open with the egg yolk, kind of show like foreshadowing what it's going to be. Not really, you kind of know. If you're watching this movie, you kind of know what it's going to be, so it's not like it's that crazy of an open, but you are kind of a little disoriented by it. And then you really get the idea for there's no chance this doesn't happen when you see the picture of herself in her house. It's just like hovering over her. It's just like a clear reminder at all times of like, this is what you are and this is what you want to be. I wrote down, my kind of movie is more where the substance flash drive stays in the trash can and she develops a strange but wholesome relationship with her therapist while discussing self-image.
Oh my God.
So there's definitely a different turn in this movie that is the kind of movie that I would more enjoy at this point.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys. How did you feel watching this for the first time when he's eating the shrimp? Were you like, how did that make you feel about what the rest of the movie was going to be like? Because that's gotta be the best part. Like, it's not going to get less gross from that moment.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I checked how much time was left in this movie. It was just one of those things where it's just on such a clear ascent the whole time of like, are we close to the culmination of what this is? It wasn't even that I was like, I need this to be over. It was just like, how close am I to the apex of what this is going to be?
You're not. The answer is always no. You're not close.
It's so much
at that
worse
point,
than you could
like,
ever imagine.
Yeah, at that point, I was like, okay, this is definitely a tone setter, but like, if this is the kind of gross it is, I'm a lot more okay with that than like, I don't know, injections and stuff that you also get in this movie. But
yeah, that's way more of injections than shrimp eating.
Yeah, as we talked about, just the gushing noises of this scene is
it. Nick, when I tell you, there's so much disgusting, horrible, bodily shit that happens in this movie, and I keep thinking back to that damn prawn scene because I'm like, there was nothing filthier to me than him digging his nails and his hands into the shells of those little crustaceans and then walking away and patting somebody on the back and shaking their hand.
And the sauce and his fingers are in it and the shrimp's in it.
Like that.
It is the worst part.
It is. I wrote this down that Harvey's character reminds me of a meshed together version of Tom Cruise from Tropic Thunder and Bill Murray in Osmosis Jones. Like, I think they took like the disgusting personality from Tom Cruise's character and then Frank from Osmosis Jones, just all the food and the body disgustingness. They just slammed that together and gave it to Dennis Quaid and said, "Here."
I'd love to know what the script said for this scene.
Look,
like, what was written?
Oh my god, yeah.
Make the audience want to scream. I don't know.
I don't know. This kind of set a tone to me. Like, I thought it was going to be like a revenge story of her against him. At this point, like, he seems like such a clear villain, and like she's clearly seems mad at him. But I think I was just misunderstanding that like he just kind of represents the outside world in like one person. So at this point, I was like seeing that, and I was like, however she's internalizing this, she's gonna like put something way worse back onto him. But I just had completely misread that.
But that's not an outlandish thought to have for the setup that they give you. Like you said, he's really just every single pair of eyes that's not hers in the world combined. Like, he is so extreme because that is what she feels from everybody else. And it amplifies that, like, the villain is her perception of her own beauty in that way. I'm really trying to make that sound eloquent, and it doesn't. But
no, it was, Queen. It was.
So now, Miss Elisabeth has taken the substance, and she goes through what I can only describe as a metamorphosis, and we get a bit of the payoff of like the opening with the egg, and then her eyeballs, like her pupils and irises splitting in two, and like almost fighting for space in her eye socket, which I think was another clever way to do that. And out comes Sue.
Well, they take us on Space Mountain first.
That's also true. Space Mountain through the body.
To a burning heart.
Yeah. They magic school bust our ass right in there.
They really did.
Thoughts on our transformation and then subsequent Sue ogling over her now perkier tits.
Her prosthetic boobs she was wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my notes was one of the immediately Sadie goes, she wearing prosthetic boobs?
Did she ask that unprompted? Like
almost immediately when Sue came on screen. I was like, yeah, it seems so, yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Emma.
No, this scene just prompted the one question I had about this movie that I still have. And I don't know if I should bring it up now or at the end. I guess I'll
now and ask it again later.
I thought when she birthed Sue through her back that her consciousness was in Sue. I thought that it was her like looking at herself young for the first time and her mind was in Sue. And then when I realized it wasn't later in the movie, then I was like, well, what the fuck is the point of the substance then? She's not even living in her new hot body.
I feel like it's almost when you start out, it's a 60-40 kind of deal. Like you're 60% still your brain, but 40% is now the alter ego / the new baby. I think they both kind of fought for control back the entire time.
Is Elisabeth, she's not experiencing what Sue's doing.
I think,
right?
Well, doesn't it start out that way and then they kind of like separate themselves further?
See, this is my big question. This is what I'm still thinking about on my second watch.
My understanding is that she was experiencing everything that through her lens, but it was, like, I don't even know.
She was passenger.
Differences and yeah, I mean, I didn't even know about passenger. I didn't. Passenger makes a lot of sense, but that's not how I saw it. I thought it was literally just like she was so obsessed with being in that state that it like altered her own mind state. Like she was still her, and then her consciousness just got split when she towards the end.
Interesting. Okay, because I really thought, like when later down the line when they would get so mad at what the other person was doing when they'd wake up in the morning, I took it as that was the first time they were seeing the aftermath and what happened. But it could just be the first time they were physically able to react to what was going on.
No, I think that she knew they both knew it was coming and they both were aware of it. It was just they were disgusted by it in a different way when they were in the other body, and they were like, I guess we'll use like there's a talk show scene later where she's watching her own self in a talk show. And I think in that scene, she's just like, she's kind of aware of what she's going to say. Like she's familiar with the points that she's going to hit and what she's going to say. She's just like dreading hearing herself say it.
Just hate watching it back.
Yeah. With the knowledge of like, I know what's coming. And it's just so frustrating for her to hear it from she's in such a different perspective that it just sounds new and different to her. Like it sounds like something she's never even heard because the tone is so different than what she had intended it when she said it before.
Okay. Thank you guys for this talk. I really needed this because I was starting to be like, why would anyone do this? It's a trap. Just a hot person takes their life for a week.
Yeah. Honestly, I think, Emma, you would have saved the world from the substance if you were in this universe.
It's a trap.
Just by that.
It's a trap. Your body will decay.
Yeah, how do we feel about the instructions, the process, and the rules for the substance as a whole? Like when you're learning about this alongside Elisabeth, what are your thoughts going through your head?
I'm too afraid of consequences to have ever gone that far in the process.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're that far down the hole, I guess you're not worried about anything. I mean, like Emma said, I don't even know where I would begin this. Like I don't even know at what point I would say no, but it's early.
Yeah.
It's extraordinarily early on in the process.
Yeah.
It's probably when I see how creepy that guy's blue eyes are and he touches my spine. That's when I first say my first
name. That was crazy.
Untrustworthy face he had. Not the hottest in this movie.
No.
He had Miley Cyrus blue eyes, like in that one picture where she's looking at the camera like this. And her eyes are really blue. That's the kind of blue eyes he had. And you can't trust a man like that.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, basically the instructions are all just like one word or two words to explain what they're doing. Nondescript box that she has to travel to a locker at a weird location to get, and there's just like needles and tubes, and the instructions are about as bare bones as you can get. Like I don't even know how to safe handle needles. I just couldn't do it.
I guess part of the film itself is that you're not supposed to question that, but I guess people like us, or at least me, the hypochondriac in me was like, there's so much medical mishandling happening right now. I was like, there's no way anyone would have survived past the first injection if this was real, which again speaks to it being a different universe, but like, oh my God.
I know. I do like how we're all like, I would never touch the needles, not even talking about the back splitting open and someone crawling out. And then a newborn baby has to stitch your back together while you're
fake boobs baby
unconscious.
comes out of her back.
A fake boobs hot baby comes out of her back vagina and she has to stitch it back together. No way that would have healed. There's no way her bathroom's that sanitary. Infection.
The one note I had on this is I want to read it word for word because hold on. Sue stitching up Elisabeth like a Thanksgiving turkey, SMH. That's what I wrote down. Because there's no way that's going to heal. Also, the bones, where would they go?
The bones.
The organs? Where?
The bones. That's all that's to be said about that.
No bones about it.
She's just a hummingbird. She's just hollow and nothing inside.
I mean, maybe that's what the substance does. It takes all of your organs and then puts them into the new body. And then you're just a shell.
I did want to give props to that mirror, that first mirror scene when she looks in the mirror. That shot is incredibly cool. I'm guessing they had to have just cut out a hole in the wall to move back like that. Because the shot doesn't really, using the mirror like that and then going through it doesn't really, there's no cut or anything in there. So, I mean, I don't know how they did it, but it looked incredibly cool.
Yeah, they do those wide zooms a lot that are crazy in the movie. Like they do it in the shower and it just keeps going up, up, up. It's very cool.
Yeah. Along with that, like when we're going to and from the locker where she gets the substance and like, it's like a shoulder cam that kind of follows her, but like when she goes back, like the next few times, it becomes jerkier and jerkier because like she's more manic. I thought that was really cool as well.
And then her witch run, the last
my God.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
So I think the thing that would officially stop me before anything else would be if I go there and the door didn't work all the way.
Yeah.
They show the door only open halfway. And first of all, that would be like, no. You know what I mean? Like, what?
No. Not the decrepit alley where the door is or the spray painted address. It's the door not working all the way that really stops you.
I mean, listen, you can cut corners on rent. That's fine. But you got to fix your door. But she doesn't even... Well, this is such a weird thing to focus on, but she doesn't even try to lift it.
Yeah.
She just goes under it right away. Like, I would have tried to, like, see if it was just, like, a little stuck. She just immediately, her thought is...
Oh, she tried the cardigan. She said, eat.
She was in a cardigan?
No, she had that nice yellow coat, though, that we see throughout the entire film.
Yeah, that was very Curious George.
It was. I really wrote down at the end, I was like, so was there a significance to the coat being yellow? Am I missing something? Or was that just, I don't know. I really was like,
there was.
I'm sure, but I could not, my brain couldn't handle it. All right. Sue baby born. And now there's this like dual existence where they kind of go back and forth. It's like every 7 days they have to switch back and forth because of the, I guess, rules of the substance being you have to switch back because you are one. You are the Matrix.
No warnings. No, this is permanent. If you fall asleep one night, don't switch back.
Right.
It's permanent. Nothing.
Sue takes advantage of the young hot bod and auditions for the new Elisabeth Sparkle role and obviously gets it because movies. And Harvey, again, crazy creepy man. Don't like the way he handles any of that. I feel like I want to jump straight to like her shooting the first like pump it up because at this point in the movie, I really had to sit back and I wrote in my notes, I said, this movie was made for ass men. Men who love ass will love this movie because the amount of ass we see, and up until that point, I was like, okay, you can get away with, that seems like a tasteful amount of ass. But when we got to pump it up, I was like, holy shit. I was like, what? I mean, I
those
get
prosthetic
it.
boobs. It's all about the ass in this movie.
Really? That's why I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. But at the same time, that's part of it. But also, I mean, this one goes out to the ass man. You know, this one's for you.
If you're an ass man, boy, do we have the movie for you in the first 30 minutes.
That's what it should be called. An ode to the ass man.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It was so, again, this is speaking to the camera angles and the shots. Like, it was so calculated the entire time that, like, you're really going to see every angle of this new hot body because she is hot. And we want you to know that. And she knows that. And this is so much better than her old 50-year-old body. Yes. And like, there's no reason for us to think her 50-year-old body is not attractive. But the movie tells us and hammers it into us that no, that old raggedy bitch doesn't deserve anything.
Get that ass out of my face right now. Bring in the young ass.
I have back-to-back notes here that say, I can't believe I'm only 35 minutes into this movie, and then it says, never mind, tight shots of tight asses.
See?
We were speaking to you, Nick.
Oh, writing this down. Nick is apparently an ass man.
Nick observes the male gaze.
The fear I would have in that leotard. I mean, her bravery is absolutely unmatched. Margaret Qualley on set filming this film, it took me out of it thinking of how terrified I would be in this leotard.
Yeah. I mean, if not the boobs, certainly the giant patch of skin under the boob that was also exposed. I would have passed away. In front of all those people? Absolutely not.
Just like the substance, I would have never gotten in that situation to begin with.
No.
Too afraid of consequences of that leotard.
Right.
There's so many steps that would have ended before we got there.
For one of us, it's the door. The other one, it's the TV show. Me, it's the shrimp. So we're all at different levels of stoppage here. So she's got the gig on the show. This was, I think, the morning show, like the spot for aerobics that Elisabeth had that that Sue has now taken. And is it at this point she gets offered the hosting of the New Year's Eve show? Or is that later? I cannot remember.
I think it's later. I don't think they ever say.
I definitely think she switches back. They do switch back and forth. I think once, but then after that first time, Sue's really like, no, I need to milk this, and takes an extra day, resulting in what I have coined as the witch finger.
Yeah. That's all it can really be described as.
Yeah, I mean, the special effects went crazy this entire film.
Crazy.
But
incredible.
Her trying to wash it off is so funny.
Nick,
How would that have
you wrote that down. I was like, yeah, let me just scrub that off.
What would you do, though? I feel like it's kind of a human response. If you woke up and your finger was old as fuck, you're not going to run to the bathroom and try to wipe it off first.
I would have tasted it first.
Salty. Delicious.
You have to start with a sniff. There's no
at least, because I mean, fingers can go so many places. How do you know how it got that way? You know?
Exactly.
I mean, she does know how it got that way.
And then wash. Is that the order?
Sure.
Yeah.
What if it comes right off? You don't know.
And then amputate.
That's honestly, that was where my brain was going. I really thought she was going to start lopping off her appendages once they died. Oof.
But at this point, you're like, she can still save it, a finger. That's not the worst. You could have a completely successful life with just one old ass finger.
Yeah.
Not her.
But it continues.
You're right. That's the only way to say it, is that, but it only gets worse, it only gets worse from here.
This is where she tries to call Fred, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sad part.
Our dear Fred was a former classmate of hers, I think he said.
And Stan.
Oh, of course. He is a Stan. He's a big fan. He still thinks she's the most beautiful girl in the world. He says that to her when he bumps into her on the street, gives her his number and is like, call me. And of course, movie events happen and she does not call him until Witchfinger leaves her feeling so ugly and so out of sorts that she's like, you know what? I'll call him because I deserve a date. And I will say, more than anything else, the phone call made me so uncomfortable. And I don't know if that's just because I hate phone calls so much. but the amount of times
sweet.
He's like, oh, I just can't believe it's you. I'm like, speak up. Like, tell me you're still there. You're stressing me out. And this isn't a stressed part of the movie. Please, Fred. And we say this is a sad part of the movie because obviously she does not get to go on the date. She has a little mentee bee in the bathroom and rubs lipstick all over her face. She's putting more concealer on. It's just, I guess, a regression of like, I would just so much rather be in my younger body, and really idolizing that the younger body is better and the younger body is more beautiful. And more than anything, I think she really believes that wholeheartedly here. And this is her true turning point to me, because if there was ever any doubt she would get out of this situation, not even get out of it, but like just stay herself in any way, it's gone. Yeah. That's kind of what that felt like to me, at least.
Yeah. This is one of the most, like, I hate saying this word, but most relatable part of the movie. I think this speaks a lot of truth to the female experience and like true, I don't know I mean, Nick, you could tell us, maybe men have this too, but I don't know. I felt like this was specifically women of staring in the mirror and putting on all this makeup and feeling ugly and taking it off, or just like staring at like a 10 times mirror for like an hour and like looking at your pores, over plucking your eyebrows, like taking it too far. And I think that's what's so painful. And that's why it's kind of a sad part of the movie, is because she might have actually felt good about herself if she went on this date, but her insecurities and her hyper focus on all of the negative completely turned her entire arc. And yeah, I think a lot of girls have done this in the mirror to themselves. Not the exact mentee bee she has of violently rubbing her face, but pretty close. Like I would say like 70% of the way there. People.
No, I agree. I think you're right. From there,
at this point, I was just like, how is this even like? How is this any like even remotely in any way better than just going to therapy?
Nick, you're asking the wrong questions.
It's a recurring theme for me throughout this movie, but it's just like at that point, it's just like so obvious. It's just like
you're trying to rationalize this too much.
This is not a physical issue at this point.
You're really trying to humanize them.
She goes and it's just Dennis Quaid's the therapist.
No. No. And you know that's probably happened to people though. Like they go to get the help and that's the help they get.
Yeah.
Next, it's kind of Elisabeth and Sue. They're now really viewing themselves as separate individuals, like two completely different people. And both of them are ignoring even like whoever the voice is on the other end of the line on the substance of being like, you are one. And like, they keep saying this to both of them because both of them are getting increasingly angry as they switch back and forth or are forced to not switch back and forth in Elisabeth's case. But both of them are so, at this point, blind to the other when acknowledging their actions because they're just like, well, she did this. She's not respecting the balance. And, oh, I don't care. I want to get rid of her. I don't like her. And this is also where, I don't know, there's a lot of jealousy happening between, I want to say it's Elisabeth feeling it towards Sue, obviously, because now she's taken everything from her. But Sue still feels attached to Elisabeth and wants out. And throughout this process, I think the thing that sticks out most to me is the smorgasbord that Elisabeth makes at one point. I think, besides obviously the prawn thing, not to harp on the prawn thing, this was also what was like one of the most disgusting things in the film for me. I don't know why it was food related for me that really did it in the film, but watching her make all this food but like not make it at the same time, like you never really see her eat any of it. You like, it's just there to serve the purpose of being disgusting. I don't know. Just really, really weirded me out.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the food stuff is like definitely the grossest moments in the movie. Particularly, I don't know if we're there in the plot, but when she pulls the chicken wing out of her belly button, don't love that part. Don't love looking at that part. And that's not even, I don't know, I just feel like that's not even close to the technically grossest thing that happens in the movie. But there's something about like the bone moving up in her body through the belly. But yeah, I agree with you. The food is definitely, it's got plenty of food for a food and movie podcast. Lots of food in this movie, just not the way you want it.
No.
Yeah. No, it's definitely tied to the way like body image is to food, and like it's shown as like food is a disgusting thing in the world and not like an enemy almost, like like a horrible thing. And that chicken bone scene is like, I really think it was the timing and placement of it of the movie, because it was right before this that it happens, and it's like kind of a clear indication of like, this is where we're headed now. Like this is what it's going to be like from here on out. Like things are going to start to get like fucked up and nasty in like a very abstract way. And then, the cooking scene when she's watching her Sue on the late night show while she's Elisabeth making the food, I think is the best scene in this movie. It's obviously like very, very intense. They crank up the music. They, make everything feel like it's very, very tense. In a scene that realistically on paper is just somebody cooking and watching TV, they really just blow everything out of proportion and make it like feel like a very real moment in time. And you start to feel, you don't really release the anxiety from this scene for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, totally. Which, between this and the bathroom makeup before the date, which do you think should be the clip they show at the Oscars of Demi Moore's acting performance?
Yeah, I like the scene where she's throwing the eggs at the TV. She's got a good arm.
She does. She does. Before she doesn't have a good arm.
Before she barely has an arm.
Yeah.
I guess might be not safe for all audiences at the Oscars. I guess the mirror is the more appropriate of the two to show at scale. But I would like anything with her in the food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, time checked at this point.
Yeah, no, that's understandable at that point to time check it, because you're like, well, this has got to be the craziest thing that's going to happen. And I feel like you keep doing that, because I literally, after that point, if I thought I was checking the time during this movie, the amount of times I checked how much was left in the last half an hour of the movie, it was insane. Insane. I know we're not like directly at the last half an hour, but we're getting pretty close. And I felt like it was every other minute. I was like, surely there can't be more. Surely.
To end.
And
I was
like
in a movie theater trapped with a bunch of Irish college students, and I screamed at a couple points. I found everybody was making noise in the theater because there's just no way to prepare for how far they're going to take this movie. And I liked that we were all on the same page of like, no, this is a movie theater we can make noise in today because it's unbelievable what's going on.
I wrote that down, that I do not think I would have been able to get through this in a theater. Like, truly, I don't know if I would have been able to do it in one sitting in a theater. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Super hot for your honeymoon. I cannot recommend enough.
I cannot believe that. That is so wild to me.
Core memory, I guess, now.
Elisabeth turns into what I can only describe as Count Orlok after this. And again, you think that's insane. It's not compared to the rest of it.
Yeah, I have the love child of Quasimodo and Gollum.
Right. She's now this horrible hybrid in between of like stiff joints, bones, dead skin, long nails. I think the most effective part of the transformations for me, I'm again going to keep harping on the sound, but it's the breathing of, and they do this throughout the film of like Elisabeth changing to Sue and back and forth. And, you know, when they need to change back and their hearing like distorts, you can hear their breathing more. They play that so well throughout the film that the second this half monster Elisabeth comes out, you're like, oh, so that's an actual monster. That's not human. And I kind of want to die in a hole a little bit listening to that.
Yes. That and oh my God, the needle going into the back gets like worse throughout this movie. And that is one of my top things I actually had to turn away from both times.
It was the obvious infection one for me that really did it.
So bad. But the monster she turned into on second watch, I will say I was really giggling watching her in this, like without the unknown of what's coming next. This was like borderline silly to me in a good way. And I was really giggling because I had like half forgotten what she looked like in that state. And I found it really enjoyable, this era of Elisabeth.
I think, well, let's preface that by saying she turns into said monster because Sue takes all of the fluid out of her and it's basically like, I don't care about the 7-day rule. I'm going to be me as long as I want to be. And the big rule of the substance is that whatever you take on one end, it's taken from the other as well. And you cannot go back. So she's permanently altered herself and just keeps doing so. And again, demonstrating that there's no way out of this. There's no way for anything to be remotely normal again, which feeds her desperation of like, well, maybe I should just stop. And then so she goes to try and terminate it. And that, you know, involves a call to mystery man on the line. And she gets to the point of literally putting the serum into Sue and terminating her. And then shit hits the fan because she immediately regrets it. I thought there would be at least a beat of like, wow, I did it, before her going like, oh my God, no, I need you. Especially since this New Year's show is coming up, which Sue is hosting.
Yeah, this was another sad part, and I didn't notice it being sad my first watch, but on this watch I wrote down the quote, "You're the only lovable part of me. You have to come back." I just thought that was sad. And again, this movie just really is playing on the deepest insecurities of, I think, all people, but women, but really, I think Hollywood culture, particularly. I know I joked about Ozempic, but just the pressure to stay young. And it's like how everyone's saying that Hollywood's starting to look like the Hunger Games capital more and more each year that passes. They look so much less like non-famous people as time goes on. And it's just this unhealthy obsession with self and unhealthy obsession with what you see in the mirror. It's just such a desperate moment of this movie.
I think, like, even myself, there's a level of acceptance that I feel like you kind of have to reach, in that, like, you have one vehicle that gets you from birth to death. Like, you don't get another option. You don't get another try. And I think that's also a message that this movie gives us, because this gives you the hypothetical of, well, what if there was another option?
Yeah.
And kind of proves to us, well, any option's not going to be good unless you are truly yourself from beginning to end. And I think Hollywood culture now is really like harping on the young and beautiful and wrinkleless, and
look at everything you can do. Look how many things you can inject to make yourself better.
Yeah. So, Count Orlok Elisabeth. She tries to revive Sue. I forget what she does to do that. Does she use the switch thing again?
Yeah, she tries to swap back.
Okay.
And she stabs it in like her heart area.
Yeah, because when she first does it in the arm, the blood doesn't start flowing. And then she does it in her heart, and the switch starts tapping.
So she tries to initiate the switch, but because of the termination, I guess, Sue wakes up while Elisabeth is awake. And so now both sides of the coin are looking at each other, and for the first time are able to interact. And I think, I would have gone crazy a little bit, but Sue goes crazy. Sue goes straight into trying to kill Elisabeth.
Is she superhuman? She kicks her like 30 feet across the room.
That's what I said. I was like, how? And from slamming her head into the sink how many times, kicking her across a room, and then from there, continuing to kick her until she sprays blood like a Capri Sun that you just stabbed on the sidewalk. Like, it's crazy.
She drives out to do it on the white carpet.
Yeah.
Why did she go out of her way to do that?
Nick, I really love your problems with this movie.
Like, the visual was cool. It's just like it's an impractical decision to just. She went out of her way for it.
Worse than when all the food was everywhere. Which did you hate more?
Yeah, but that didn't hurt the other. You know.
I thought you were talking from a cleaning perspective.
Sure, but also killing a woman was. I feel like that might escalate things a little bit.
It was somebody who just tried to kill you, to be fair.
That's true. I guess it didn't seem that way to me, because it almost felt like a mercy that, like, Elisabeth was finally putting Sue to rest. Sue's immediately like, how fucking dare you? I'll kill you.
Sue didn't see Elisabeth's change of heart, where I think that if clearly something goes wrong with the switch, but if nothing had gone wrong with the switch and Sue had talked to Elisabeth, I actually think at that point they could have worked out a system where Sue lives all the time and then only wakes up Elisabeth when they have to refuel.
Yeah. I just think they got so disgusted with one another that
Yeah.
there's obviously no way for them to coexist, and they make it very clear in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that at this point, that's when it gets super confusing about everything you said about like the consciousness and who's who and what's what, and it's pretty clear you're not really supposed to get it from this scene. It like kind of fucks with everything you thought you understood about what was happening, because how can they both exist at the same time if they're the same person? But yeah, I mean, it's something that's, I don't know that anyone really has an answer to, but yeah, my best guess is that they were one consciousness that just got split.
Split because you don't really know what happened when she put the like termination goo inside of her. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
I can accept that reality that's when the consciousness is split. Just like the eyeballs and the egg.
At this point, OG Elisabeth, she's down for the count or lock. And Sue is off to the New Year's show that she is to host, and now is when we really speed up.
No, I just at this point really thought it was like falling action like exposition here, and it was not. It's
You're
not
like,
the end of the movie.
And I was wrong.
Yeah, I thought we were really just like heading to the finish line, and we kind of hit the climax already. But yeah, I was way off on that.
It's like a fake out of the climax is when Elisabeth dies.
It's the pre-com.
Exactly. You see, and that's what I'm talking about. So now we're at the like pre-show for, I don't even want to say pre-show. I feel like this is a few hours before the show itself. And Sue's getting ready, and she starts to feel ill, of course, because things are not right. She goes to the bathroom, like starts to cough, and loses a tooth in the sink. She's wearing a full-on ball gown in this bathroom and hacking over a sink, loses a tooth, and then finds that, oh, it's not just the one. They're all loose, and just starts taking them out like Tic Tacs.
Yeah, I was sitting there like, God damn it, she's going to pull a tooth out. And then she pulled the tooth out, and then I was like, no, they're not going to show her pulling out more teeth in the same
And then they
way.
do just that.
And then they do just that.
My mind went to when she pulled that first tooth out. First of all, like, I know that's like a trigger for everybody, but that scene like really, really hurt me in a way that I was unprepared for at this point in the movie, because I thought I was through it. But I was like, no, God, no, please don't show me her trying to shove that tooth back in her face.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been worse.
I was terrified that she was going to try to shove it back into her mouth. With how long the fucking tooth stem was on it, I was like, this is going to kill me if she does this. So I was relieved to see her pull out other teeth.
As long as they don't go back in. Yeah, this is kind of like Sue realizes she's deteriorating, and that I guess what the message is here is that the termination stuff is still working, even though she was revived. At least that's what I came away with from that.
That or that Elisabeth died, that she can't exist without her because Elisabeth was the Matrix.
Right.
Probably both, honestly.
I do think it's both.
It's a poop soup for her.
Exactly. So Sue tries to flee, and she gets stopped by Harvey and the network executives in the hallway. And I think that this delivery of the line from Harvey here is the most sinister in the entire film. Like, he looks at her and he's just, pretty girls should always smile. And
classic.
And like,
that was my finishing quote.
It also just struck a chord with me because, I mean, how often are you told, I mean, Emma, I'm sure you can speak to this, is that like, oh, are you upset? Are you angry? You should smile more. And that fucking bothers me.
Agree. I actually feel like I haven't heard that in a long time, so maybe we're evolving a little bit.
Or maybe just people don't want to approach us at all.
Yeah, or people think I'm ugly.
No.
Just kidding.
You are the hottest baddie I know. Stop.
You better stop. That wasn't a fish. That wasn't a fish for a compliment.
Well, I'm gonna reel it in.
This episode, Nick, sorry, this episode's really for the girls, isn't it?
No, this episode is for the ass men, Emma, and you know that.
Right, so true. So true.
Okay.
Nick, what do you think about that quote?
That was gonna be my quote at the end here. I mean, that's like the classic. That's the classic, like, I have another one that'll work great, but it's the classic, like, if I'm intentionally trying to piss Sadie off, I'll say something like that. Like, it's so over the top ridiculous that it's like it's like almost played out at this point. When something you hear anybody say, you're like, come on. We've been through that. You have to have heard it at some point now that you're aware of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. It was quite an on the nose moment, but in the like perfect crescendo of everything going on.
Yeah. So Sue runs back home. She's truly desperate at this point, and she uses leftover serum that is just, we don't know. Well, I guess, does she take it from Elisabeth, or was it truly
mystery liquid?
It was a mystery liquid that she injects herself with.
No, it was the initial injection.
Was it?
Left from that. Yeah, it was. It was. That's why it said discard after first use. It was the initial thing that she gave herself.
It was the initial activator. You're right.
Yeah, and then she uses it. What's left of it?
Yeah.
Mistake.
Big, huge mistake. Because now Sue's birthing a monstro. I truly did not think we were going to have to go through that birthing sequence more than once. And boy, was I upset.
This movie is just a whole lot of, they couldn't possibly. And then they do.
And then they do.
And then you go, well, I guess why wouldn't they?
Yeah. If we got this far, why not take it another step, you know?
At this point, I was on my feet chanting Cronenberg.
Nick is watching each second go by on his clock at this point in the movie. He's like, good God.
Yeah, every 30 seconds you just move the mouse a little bit to see where it is.
bring on the creature.
And that's exactly what we do. We bring on a creature, which is an amalgamation of skin, bones, cartilage, body parts, and Elisabeth.
And titties, specifically.
And titties. I don't even want to say titties, though, because it just looks like balloons. It just looks like balloons tacked onto the body.
Water balloons.
Water balloons, yeah.
Water balloons.
Okay, fine. No, like one of those balloons that people on TikTok fill with like slime and stuff, and they pop them, and it's like Elmer's glue inside.
I think we're on different TikToks, Kristen.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Guys, you stay there. I gotta go.
I was trying to not make a noise, let you get through it, but I was just already shaking my head and laughing before we even got there, because I could tell Emma was on the same page as me there.
Yeah, you guys in balloon TikTok? Or is it just me?
Balloon talk, as the insiders call it.
Anyway. Monstro Sue. Wait, what is it? Eliza Sue. I like that we get that little title card of Monstro Eliza Sue. I thought that was great. I was like, I love that they gave her a new name. I love that they gave like this third entity its own persona.
It's a little cute. Like it just wants to be pretty.
Right. But
it's a little cute. It's a little, you feel bad for it.
we feel bad, but you come out and you start breathing and growling like that, I'm out. Sharks, I'm out.
It's how it could breathe. It's the only way it could breathe. What was it supposed to do? Not host the New Year's Eve show?
Speaking of, that's where we're headed to.
I just got to acknowledge this scene real quick where it starts like the Monstra Elisabeth just starts getting ready.
Oh my God.
What I mean. Sad, cute.
It was funny, but at the same time, I was truly like, am I going to shed a tear for this monster? Because the shot of her curling her hair and the hair burning off was so sad.
It's so sad.
Like, in principle, hilarious, but also devastating.
Devastating. It's like a little girl stealing her mom's curling iron and then burning her hair off.
Monstro Elisabeth goes to the New Year's show, now completely done up in the dress that she has torn herself into. She takes the poster that Elisabeth had hanging, like the giant poster that's been in her apartment the whole time, cuts out the face and uses it as a mask to walk into the studio. And we see through a POV shot, through the eye holes of the mask, everyone saying like, oh my God, we love you. You're so beautiful. And I think that's also a great moment because yes, it's like Elisabeth wanted that payoff of everybody thinking she was beautiful. Sue, kind of same thing, but it also serves as like, you know, you're wearing a mask. It's not who you really are at the same time. But whatever people see of you is what's important in that moment. And I thought that was really powerful. I wrote down that was one of my favorite shots of, or like, that was one of my favorite sequences of the whole film. Cause like we see that hallway a bunch of times, but this specific moment for me, I was like, oh, wow. I was like,
yeah,
damn.
Yeah. I love, I mean, who doesn't, but I love At Last by Etta James, and they used it there, which really hit.
I was surprised they used that there, to be honest, but
it didn't feel like it fit, but it worked. I don't know how. Those are kind of opposing ideas, but it did feel out of place, but it simultaneously, you know, I didn't hate it. But yeah, it was devastating when that scene just like disappears.
Yeah. And then I guess we're at almost the final sequence here. I want to say this is obviously the climax of the film. Yeah. It is the New Year's show. Lots of people are in the audience. I thought one of the craziest juxtapositions was a little girl dressed as Sue immediately cutting to all of the dancers who are completely topless.
Yes.
I thought that was wild, but I mean, also clearly very intentional. Yeah, then Eliza Sue makes her debut. How do we feel about this? I feel like there's the before, there's a clear before and after of like people realizing what she is. I want to know what you guys think about that.
More about just like, I couldn't think of a more, at this point, when it's gone this far, I couldn't think of a more perfect way than just soaking the whole room in blood. Like it is the perfect way to go for the climax. And it's reminiscent of Carrie, I think very intentionally reaching back to Carrie. And it's, to me, it was perfect.
Nick, you don't look impressed.
Yeah, I just like, the whole time I was like trying to imagine being in the crowd for this.
Yeah.
Just like what you would possibly even do. Because like obviously like it's so absurdist, like there's no world in which this happens that you like actually see this go down. But like it made me even think about like being in the crowd for anything like this, where it's just like this horrific switch. Like what what does a live audience do in that moment? Like, have we had anything even remotely like this that we can like pick at that we're like, how this is how a live audience reacted in life? Because I can't think of anything that would like, it's gone disastrous in how a live audience reacted. It kind of reminded me of
Astro World.
Yeah, that was kind of
say,
the opposite. It's kind of like the performer watching the crowd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
But I was thinking of it reminded me of Nope, where the monkey attacks, and it's just like you're just like so shocked by this like obviously like supposed to be glamorous moment. Scene just goes so horribly wrong, and you see these people's faces just like sink and like not even react for a little while because it takes there's a long moment here where, like you said, there's a clear before and after, but there's an in between moment where it's not before or after. Everyone is just like frozen.
Yeah.
And it feels like a long time. I don't know how much runtime it actually was, but when you're watching it, it feels like it's a long time that they're just like stuck there.
Yeah. I wrote that down. I was like, why are so many people just staying seated? It's like, do we not realize? And
I feel like you can't process your brain, like especially something like that. Your brain couldn't even process, I feel like, what's happening at first.
Right. I agree. I think that the like metal guitar riff, I thought that went so hard. I was sitting like in my chair going, all right. It's like, because I think that was the perfect I guess if that had to be translated into audio, that is what I would translate it into. I thought that, I was like, that's perfect. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, the spinning around in a circle while just gushing blood, beautiful. Beautiful.
It felt like they made an entire movie to make this scene.
Oh my God.
Like everything up to this point was just like, so they could have a reason to make this scene.
And I think it's funny that you brought up Nope, because that scene is the first scene in the film that like, I feel like explains a lot in terms of the characters and in terms of the motivations. And this is just like the end result on this story. I think that's a fun like comparison to make.
Yeah, that was it's so similar to Nope in that way.
And then we end in a rather, of course, disgusting way of Elisabeth. I guess she falls over and like basically explodes. I don't know what else to call that, because she bursts open but also falls apart like a Roblox character dying. Like I feel like I want to put that noise in, like of just the
please do.
And then the very last shot of the movie is a little blob of Elisabeth, her head on her Hollywood star.
My Halloween costume for 2025.
Oh my God, good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then she gets swept up by a street sweeper, and we end the movie where we started it, at her Hollywood Walk of Fame star.
How does this movie not end in the studio is crazy. Insane that they just don't end the movie in the studio. I get it. It's like the time in the beginning. It's like the peaceful beginning matched with the peaceful end of the star. But like wild that they just do this little like basically post-credit scene. That's just a little like wrap up. I'm happy they did. I thought it was great, but I was just like, the decision not to end the movie in the studio was must have took a lot of thought. But
Nick said, I want that 2 minutes back. I can't do this.
I can't sit here for another goddamn minute and watch this movie.
He was like, if you're going to make a post-credit scene, put it after the credits.
The little face squid thing
So
looks
cute.
like Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean. Like it's like they were like, you know what CGI everyone appreciates that was way ahead of its time? Let's do that red.
You know what it reminded me of? Have you guys watched Jimmy Neutron?
Yeah.
Not for a long time.
There's a sleepover episode where two pizzas come to life and they have like really scary faces. And I think that's what she looked like to me.
And then the movie's over.
That's the substance. What are our thoughts coming away from it?
I gotta hear Nick's first.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting to hear Nick's.
I do have a question as I want to slip in before we get to our final thoughts. What do you guys think? Elisabeth Sparkle's clearly a stage name. What do you think her real last name was, if you just had to guess? Or do you think her name was even Elisabeth?
I feel like it's so common.
Barkley's good. I
was going to say Spencer. But...
I feel like we went similar directions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why? What's your thought, Nick?
No, it's just something I randomly kept thinking about during the movie. Is like, I wonder, because it changes the character when you know their name. Like, if it's just something like really random, it's just like, it's a different person.
Yeah, I like that we don't know though. You know,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think that would have added something we didn't really need.
That was my follow-up question: was how the fuck do you end up with Sue?
Sue. I don't know. Part of me is just like, did they just choose popular women names of like
the 80s,
late 90s, early 2000s?
She felt like such a Tanya.
Tanya would have been a good one.
She felt like a Gabby to me.
Gabby.
She felt like Sue Sparkles to me. Was she called Sue Sparkles or just
No,
Sue?
She was just Sue.
But see, Sue Sparkles, I feel like works with her, but I don't know why Sue on its own doesn't.
Sue Sparkles feels like somebody that actually existed.
Yeah. Maybe Sparkle also makes it younger because Sue feels like an older name.
That's true.
But
all right, so my overall feelings are I liked it enough that I didn't hate it.
So when Emma said perhaps to whether Nick would hate it or not, she was correct.
I know him well.
It was definitely a lot of the things that I dislike about like movies in this genre are like, you know, lazy tropey characters and stuff like that this movie did not use at all. And I thought it was, you know, we've talked about this multiple times throughout the movie. They did a great job with soundtrack. They did a great job with every shot was very intentional and everything looked great. You can't argue with any of the acting in this movie whatsoever. Just, it's not for me. I'm not gonna say I'm obviously, I don't think many people are like, I'm gonna watch this movie again. It's just not that kind of movie. So I won't be probably unless somebody's like dying to watch it. I'm there. I'll watch it with them, but that's about it. And I probably wouldn't recommend it to somebody, but if they were trying to watch it, again, I wouldn't say don't. Like, I don't think it's bad. I just like, I don't know what the situation is where you recommend this to somebody and you're like, this is a good time for you to watch it.
True. Yeah, I agree. I loved it. I mean, I thought it was like perfect for the genre. No, but I will say, like, I probably won't watch it again. Like, even watching it a second time, it was very hard to sit through for a second time because the gore is just so much. And like, I obviously like horror movies, but I'm not, and I am fine with gore, but I'm not like a glutton for punishment. Like, I'm not seeking out disgusting gore for the sake of seeing gore. So I feel like as perfect as I thought it was, and I had like a really great experience seeing it in the theater and all that stuff, I kind of like want to leave it there. I don't think I need to revisit it after this. But yeah, acting was incredible. The way it was shot was perfect. I couldn't get over some of the shots that they were doing in this movie, and I would recommend it. And I think everyone should watch it and feel the pain of watching it once and seeing how amazing Demi Moore was in it. And then they don't have to watch it again. And the time I would recommend it is now, because the Oscars are on March 2nd.
Yep. I'm fully on board with that take. I will also say I kind of agree with Nick in the sense that, like, I don't know how I would recommend it, but there's only a specific way I'd recommend this movie. And I think that would be to treat it as a stage show. So like it's an experience. It's not just a movie. Like, you have to be in the right headspace. You have to be in the right setting. Honestly, I think it's something, like I said, you experience. You don't necessarily want to do that over and over again. But I do think this was a great take on current issues with self-image, with self-esteem in women, in young people, in just the beauty industry and how they operate for societies like ours. I think now is the time to watch it. But like I said, I think it's a very specific watch, you know.
Yes. Yep. Big, like perfect sleepover energy that you watch it with a group of friends late at night and you like scream and laugh and it's like becomes a memory of your friendship of like, oh my God, that movie was insane. And then it gives you warm, fuzzy feelings when you look back on it, even though the content is what it is.
Yeah, I had a friend tell me just this past weekend, even before we watched it, that him and his girlfriend had watched it over the weekend just from a recommendation, like didn't really know what it was. Somebody just recommended it to them. And they were just like, what the fuck? Like, because it's, if you don't know what you're getting into, it's probably a over the top difficult watch, let alone, because like, one, if you're watching it, the gore is obvious. That like catches you off guard. If you're not going into it wanting that or ready for that, that's a really weird movie to watch. Two, if you're not paying that close of attention, this is a crazy movie to have on in the background. Where if you're just, like, on your phone, and then this is just happening. You're just hearing these sounds and stuff. You're like, probably jarring. And then three, it has, like you said, such a strong message that if you're just like on the other end of it, going in for like just a horror, you're not ready for like how heavy and how much depth this movie has either. So it's like, it's, you kind of need somebody to come across this movie on their own, and then they ask you about it, and then you can be like, yeah. Whereas if you're pitching this from scratch, it's like a crazy thing to try to go about.
No. Yeah, probably would not pitch from scratch, except my family I've been telling, especially because now I did the like movie free trial for 7 days to watch it again. And I'm like offering my account to them. I anticipate if my parents watch this, like I'm going to get a call from my mom. That's going to be like, Emma, what was that?
I would never tell my parents to watch this movie.
Oh, I can't wait for my parents to watch this movie. I don't want to watch it with them, but I look forward to their reaction.
I wish them the best.
I wish them luck on their endeavor.
Yeah. Oh my God. Emma has some food for us for this film.
I feel like there's a clear two options in this movie of what food I was going to focus on. And I am going to be making a New York Times baked shrimp cocktail with a homemade horseradish, and it felt right. I feel like that is the most memorable food scene in the movie, even though both are pretty memorable. But Dennis Quaid chewing, I will see when my life flashes before my eyes when I die in the future. Love shrimp cocktail. Don't you dare make this while you watch this movie. Make them on separate occasions. Do not eat while you watch this movie. And don't drink anything either. Don't do anything. Just be sitting in a room on the couch without any substances around you.
What a perfect way to end that, Emma. It's like you knew what you were doing.
Professional.
All right. Any more closing remarks from us? Besides, I mean, we're going to end with a quote. But, you have a question.
Go ahead. A question that none of these questions actually matter to the plot of the movie, so this will stick right on theme. When they see the thing in the monitor, like something on her butt that one time, and she has to like sneak out and she pulls the chicken wing out, what did they see?
I feel like it wasn't what she saw. I feel like it had to have been like maybe there was a frame thing with the camera or like something messed up. I feel like it could not have been the bubble on her ass.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think they saw anything, and it almost felt like a paranoid daydream kind of from her too.
Yeah, it's not real. It's just like it's just the dream that none of that happened at all. So I was like, okay, she didn't pull the chicken wing out of her stomach. I get that, but I was like, did the
You're like, I can get the chicken wing. All right, gang. That was the substance.
All right, guys. Chit chat with you next week.
Yeah, same time next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Take us away, Nick.
I actually am quite handy if you ever need me to be an aide. I've got a big hammer. You know what I mean.